Hello, all you ghouls and goblins, and welcome to Spook here on Killer Cuts. In fact, the last I checked, Friday the 13th, so happy F13, all you wonderful people out there. I'm Bobby Munson, and my partner in crime right there, Astrid Pizarro. How are you doing? Are you excited about this episode of Killer Cuts?
Yes, I'm glad we're doing this one. I've been waiting for this one.
It's going to be great. And because it's spooky season, we've been doing these about, once every month to 6 weeks right now. We got back-to-back shows coming up. It's a double creature feature this month for all you fans of Killer Cuts, because next Friday, we're going to be releasing an episode we're calling The Killer Collective. We're going to be talking about the movies Killer Book Club and Totally Killer. So a lot of great things happening. Before we even start getting into the Saw franchise, because this episode, 6th episode that we've done, or chapter, mind you, is all about that Saw franchise, because we want to play a game. But just let me know, what are you looking forward to horror-wise that you haven't seen yet that's coming up here in the month of October after it is? Anything really piquing your interest? Or is there, what's your Halloween go-tos, repeat viewings?
Well, it's always Scream no matter what. Like, that's my go-to answer. The difference is I tend to watch him like whenever, like whichever one I'm in the mood for. I don't watch them in order or anything like that. But the ones I was looking forward to the most was definitely this one. And then I kept seeing pictures, like more than anything, the thumbnails for Totally Killer. So I was like, I had to check it out. I just didn't think it was coming out already. So I added it to my list and I realized it was out. So it was a great opportunity to watch it. And then for Killer Book Club, which is the other one that we're talking about next time too, I remember just being on Netflix and I was like, that looks like a horror movie to me. I want to check it out. And then my brother and I were like hesitant because we don't like how obviously the Audible is not in English, so that bothers us with the subtitles and the mouth and the way they move and everything. That's just a us thing. But I said I want to watch it and see how it goes, which is because the movie's not American, so I want to know how it goes. And it's just nice to see a lot of parallels between my favorite movie and that. We'll talk about that for that one. We'll leave it for that one. But I think those were the 3 movies that I really had on my list so far. I don't think I have anything else for right now, unless something else comes out a little bit later.
See, it seems like the year of horror movies for sure, and there's been a lot of great ones that have come out already, ones that we've talked about, ones that maybe we'll talk about down the road, ones that maybe weren't so great. At least one in particular I'm thinking of as of late. Wasn't a big fan of the new Exorcist movie, but that's okay. Still holding up hope for Five Nights at Freddy's. I know notoriously video game adaptations aren't the greatest, but I don't know. This one, I don't know how you can really do wrong when it's a video game based on a night security watchman sitting in a room watching cameras and trying not to die. Sounds like a pretty simple horror film's concept there. So really looking forward to checking that out here. We're going to go on Halloween night to go check that one out. That's going to be our one. Other than that, though, of course, this being Friday the 13th, I'm going to be checking out some Jason movies. At least, Friday the 13th movie, let's not kid ourselves. The very first killer in that series was, of course, his mother, Jason Voorhees. Oh, spoiler alert. Sorry, people. But yes, Pamela Voorhees being the original killer of the series itself. And cool fact to go along with that is next year, I believe, Peacock, if I'm not mistaken, Peacock original or Paramount original, I can't remember, Camp Crystal Lake is going to be a TV series that takes place between the time of Jason dying as a child and his mother killing the counselors at camp. So I'm curious to see how that pans out and where they go with it. So very exciting times. But yes, I probably will revisit some of the Halloween series right around Halloween, because you can't beat Michael Myers this time.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm double checking. I know there's the Pet Sematary one that they just released for Paramount Plus, at least for the US as well. I've been kind of curious about it. I'm not sure if I'll check it out, but I have it on my list just in case.
Yeah, that was another one. I'm holding reservations because I know I mentioned this to you. I really struggle sometimes with the adaptations of Stephen King's work to film, and I know this one isn't directly his work, but it's based on the adaptation from his original piece of work. And a lot of people just miss the point when translating it. And
Right.
even worse, Stephen King sticks his nose in the production these days. And I say that because, with a lot of heart, Stephen King should stick to writing and stay the hell off of movie sets, because yikes, even he
Just have him
doesn't
do a
understand
cameo.
it. Yeah,
He did it on Aiden. That
that's
was
fine.
perfect.
That's fine. Yeah. But honestly, when he's not been able to have as much say in what happens in these movies,
Mhm.
they tend to be a lot better. But then, of course, he doesn't end up liking them. In case of The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's the version of The Shining, which anyone who's read the book and then watched the movie will understand why Stephen King had this big problem with it, because it is quite a far jump between what the source material is and what ended up being on the screen. But I actually like Stanley Kubrick's interpretation of the work, and I thought it related well. It's just kind of like I liked when Kevin Williamson reinterpreted the book I Know What You Did Last Summer and came up with what he did, because it was a lot stronger than what that led us to have. So, but that's for another time. We'll get to all that. Happy Friday the 13th, people. Let's talk Jigsaw. Let's talk Saw franchise. 10 movies in total. And they do count 10. X is 410. Spiral counts in that whole scheme of these movies. And they kind of, especially lately, the last two have been on the side of prequel situations.
Yeah.
And we will talk about them very soon. But let's date ourselves back to the original Saw movie. The original one, directed by James Wan. Who did he become? Oh, nobody big, just James Wan. But yes, in October 29th, 2004, Saw hit theaters. And I remember seeing the ad for this and thinking, man, that looks like a really kind of cool, low budget, more indie horror film. That this looks interesting. And went and watched it, and I was like, I like this concept. This is really cool. And then that ending. The ending is where, like, right when John finally steps up, he was Mr. Body the entire time during that time, and slams that door and game over, and that was it. And I'm like, yo, this is great. I was loving this. This was cool. Went on to the series being taken over by director Darren Lynn Bousman, I believe is the pronunciation of his name, who did 2, 3, 4, and also was the man behind Spiral as well too. Darren Lynn Bousman has gone on to be great at what he does, and I love a lot of the work that he's put out there. If anyone has not ever watched the movie Repo the Genetic Opera, go watch Repo the Genetic Opera, because it is one of the most fantastic, over-the-top B-movie, horror movie musicals that you could ever witness. And I don't care, people are going to be like, but Paris Hilton's in it. It doesn't matter, because the character she plays is perfect for Paris Hilton, because it's essentially Paris Hilton. So good job, Darren Lynn Bousman. You made her makes sense in that movie. But yeah, we had 5 and 6 were actually taken over by David Hackle. 5 was David Hackle. 6 and 7 were Kevin Grutert, I believe. I will probably get that wrong. That's what I do. 8, which was known as Jigsaw, was the Spierig brothers. I said Darren Lynn Bousman back for Spiral. And then this most recent one was Kevin Grutert again, who was responsible for 6 and 7. 7 being the one that was in 3D, the final chapter, as they called it. It was the final chapter for 7 years. At least they left 7 years before they decided to revitalize the series. But they've done it in good fashion, though, because I will say that outside of the original 3, I liked 1. I really liked 2. I thought 3 was great. And 4 was kind of where it went on a little bit of a slope, where I found it became more about the traps and the over the topness of what they could do and what they brought. Not to say I didn't enjoy watching it. Obviously, I've seen every single one of these, but as the movies went along, it started to become like most horror movie franchise, where I was watching because I'm a fan. I like seeing where it goes, but it wasn't quite as in-depth and interesting as the first few. But I'll argue that Spiral and Saw changed my mind, and Saw X changed my mind entirely on that, because Spiral was good. Saw X was excellent. In fact, I came out of that telling you this might have been one of the best Saw movies in the franchise. I still look at it now and think it may have been better than most of the movies in this franchise, like arguably in the place with the first few for me. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Astrid. Talk all about the Saw franchise and your thoughts on them.
One thing that, like, the main thing I would say, not the one thing, but the main thing I like about Saw is the storytelling, because I like how when you go and watch it in the whole order, there's such a storyline here that you have to follow with his life. So it's interesting, like getting bits and pieces with every movie, so you kind of feel like it's a puzzle in a way if you think about it like that. And every single movie you learn something new from him and these characters. So it's incredible. Like when this came out, I was thinking I knew where it was gonna fit in the timeline, but I was wondering. I wonder if they're knowing how great this is gonna be, and if it's successful, if they'll want to do another one. Where are they gonna fit that in the storyline now? Because it's just interesting how they do it. But I also thought it was like my brother and I were thinking watching this because I like I forget her name. I have to look up her name, but like the antagonist, to put it like that, in the whole movie, the lady, she ends up it's the first time that I see somebody kind of like mocking him in such a way, but like putting him in his own trap, thinking, "Oh, I won." It's like usually people are trying to skip the traps, and they know that's what happens. But she's the first one to like challenge him in that way, and they're thinking, "Oh, I won," and then we automatically know they don't win because we know obviously Jigsaw's still alive for the next movie. If you think of the timeline was so. I just like how that's the first person that I ever see here like mocking him, and that sort of was like, "Oh, I beat you." But we know Jigsaw; he's always like two, three steps ahead of that person. So I was just waiting for that moment when that was gonna happen more than anything. That was my favorite part. But I like how even with Spiral too, the way they fit this is such a storyline to like fit the Saw franchise as a whole. That's just my favorite part of these whole movies. It's just thinking of like every single time we learn something new from him, and it's like I don't know how Tobin does it, but it's like I feel like he does it better every single movie. I don't know how he really does it. Um, but another one is like having like bits and pieces of like having Amanda in there. It was nice to see more of their relationship too, because we get glimpses of it, but I feel like it ends kind of quickly. So I'm glad we get a little bit more in that, and like having that, showing the connection that they have there too. So overall, I loved it, and I was like, I just wanted to watch it again. I'm just waiting for that moment that it comes on digital so I can purchase it too. But I just love, the way they just fit it into that timeline. I think the only thing that I would have liked that I didn't get to see was having Jill in there, because I'm thinking Jill and him, she still cares about him. And being that he's going to get a treatment in Mexico, I think I would have liked to see her like worried about him. He's like, "Oh, don't go," and like begging him not to go, but begging him that he'll be fine, to get another answer, to not leave her, or anything like that along those lines. Or even maybe encouraging him to go, because that would have been interesting. Her telling, he's like, "Oh, maybe it'll be like a unique chance at life," and see her get involved in his life in that sort of way. But I figure being that they were like in and out in that sort of way, and there's in the storytelling here, I figure maybe that's why. But that would be the only detail that I wish it would have been there to like show that connection in the timeline as a whole.
But they could also be leaving it open for more storytelling as well too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If these can go back to this point in time and tell a piece of the story that we didn't know, and so interestingly too, because as I said, I knew a twist was coming. I knew she hadn't got the better of Jigsaw because of the knowledge of what he was doing. The cool factor was how he got them and how he planned it. Now, it didn't go 100% to his original plan. There was a bit of a swerve to it, but I'm now looking at this about how much story they open up, because again, I don't know about the little boy who come in there and was involved at the end there. Where's his involvement in this? Like, to me, this wasn't something I couldn't find any information. This isn't someone that eventually we know later on in the series is this young boy. So is it possible that this is another apprentice of Jigsaw? Somebody like, again, he would have been very young during this time, or is this someone who could grow up to mimic and copy and be inspired by John Kramer? And this could be someone that we see lay out future plans to carry on the legacy of John Kramer in doing this. So it opened that up very well. I loved how they got the other two at the end, because I mean, I saw something coming, but I just loved when they finally realized how messed up they were, and just how that ended. And the acting, like Tobin Bell, like aside from like everybody did a good job in this, Tobin Bell was phenomenal at his absolute best. And I know one critic actually said it's interesting to know that Tobin Bell treats playing John Jigsaw Kramer like it's some sort of Shakespearean character, because he puts in an A+ performance when playing this. This is one of those guys where if they ever tried to take this series elsewhere and replace him, fans would revolt. They would not have it. It's like when they replaced Robert Englund and tried to reboot A Nightmare on Elm Street. It didn't work because, unfortunately for Jackie Earle Haley, the true story of Freddy Krueger kind of comes forward, and you realize that Freddy Krueger is just a burnt up pedophile, disgusting human being that deserved what he got, and you didn't want to root for him. When Robert Englund played it, you're like, this guy's funny, so I can get behind it, but at the heart of it, it's a real sick bastard kind of thing. So, it's I think the same case here. You want to sympathize with the character to a certain degree because of why he's doing what he does, who he's doing it to, but at the same time, at the heart of it, it's a really sick, twisted person to be able to go to these extremes. I will say I was shocked being the 10th in the series, because horror movies notoriously need to go over the top every single time. They got to do one up the next one. How much gore, how much violence, how much this. This one scaled it back, I found. Now, not to say there isn't gore, and there is some pretty intense scenes in this movie, but it didn't become all about that. And in fact, a lot of it was played out a lot more interestingly and had the feel of the original film. So it felt like it fit between 1 and 2 like it was supposed to do. And I love that about the direction of this movie, that they cared so much about it to make it feel like as if this one legitimately was 1.5.
Yeah, and another thing I love too is that I knew I saw it because of Twitter, and I knew I sent it to you, and I warned you about it. So I warned my brother about it too because he didn't know, and it's like having that after credit scene was really, really well done, because
Yeah.
I was like, I'm a Marvel fan, so I no matter what happens, I will stay by sitting down my butt in there until the end of the credits. I will not get up until it's like I see the lights on. It's like, no, that's not my signal yet. So when I see people doing Marvel movies that get up, I was like, oh no, honey, you're not a fan. No, you're not a fan. So like seeing this made me think, I felt like I was watching like a Marvel movie, because like, oh, stay for the after credits, and I was like, sure. And they didn't even post it, because obviously for Marvel they don't tell you if you stay or not. You just fans kind of spread it around as the movie starts playing. So when I saw that the official Salkan tweeted it, I told my brother about it. He's about to get up, and I said, no, 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 stay there. There's something happening. And I didn't know what to expect after that after credit scene. So seeing him there, and I had a feeling, because I was wondering from the get-go, and I told my brother, so is the guy that basically initiated this and gave him the idea to go to Mexico for the treatment, not, it's gonna go unscathed? That doesn't make sense to me. It was like, I made me wonder about his role. I was like, is he really innocent? Or is it just like John that just like, nah, I'm not gonna even try with him? So when you see the after credits scene with him getting tortured, and we had the detective there who people have been wanting to see in the movie as well. So even just to get that glimpse of him there, it made me think, it was like, I wonder what would happen like after that scene. Like what would if we had another movie like after that happened? Because I think that would have been interesting. And it just at the same time made me think about it. It's like, man, I wish I would have added that scene in the movie somehow. Like maybe a couple months later, him returning home and then getting his revenge. But it's still having an after credit scene felt like so different for a horror movie, and I love that they did that, something that was different for me.
Yeah. Oh, I agree too. And I worry leaving most films nowadays. Like, I mean, obviously there's certain movies you can go to nowadays, especially if they're based on a true story, where there's not going to be an after credit. But horror movies, comedy movies, drama movies, it doesn't matter what it is these days. I'm like, do I stick around? Do I wait the extra 5, 6, 7 minutes, whatever it is, just to see? And I was glad that I was aware of this. I'm glad that you made me aware of it so that I could stick around for it. Because I do have that tendency to be like, certain it's nothing, so I'll just go and leave right now kind of thing, get ahead of the traffic. But then all of a sudden I'll hear, oh no, there was an after credits. Like, I could have stuck it out. Why didn't I stick it out? But glad I did here. But I've made a habit of it lately, especially just about everything. I even stuck around Scream thinking that maybe there'd be an after credit Scream.
That's the other one that had it too, because I had seen that somebody posted there's an after credit scene, but they didn't say what it was. So after I stayed, I looked at my brother and I said, I can't believe that was the after credit scene. But it's funny, like thinking about it, because it's it's Scream. They're always gonna make fun about stuff like that. So I like the way they did it, but I prefer the Saw X after credit scene though. So if you haven't seen it, stick around and watch the after credit scene, please.
Oh, for sure. Everybody should. Now, I'm not going to make us rank these movies because ranking horror movies can be tough, but I do want to know your opinion. What would be like up there for you? Like, kind of, if you had to pick one out of this series that really does it for you, what do you have the best connection to?
I feel like I don't want to. I feel like I can't. It's kind of hard to pick because I like this one a lot, and I like the storytelling. But I think maybe the first one just to like see how he started, because even like my brother started doing the movie, it's like, how can I not like root for John Kramer during this movie as much as what he's doing? Because you're thinking about like he's in a treatment, he's getting taken advantage of, and not only him but a bunch of people, and he's basically just bring that out into the open, that there's so many like victims to this doctor, to put it like that. So this one, like the storyline, like it's one of those like made me want to cheer for him. But I think I stick to one because I feel like one, so many things happen and there was so many twists and turns, and it just kept me like trying to guessing. And then, like you said, just having the review, like he was there the whole time, right in the middle of them, and just like, and I like the part when towards the end when they always put that the theme, and they kind of show you is like why you should have done, and that way you could have beat the game this whole time. That it was like right in front of you, you just made one mistake that cost you the whole thing. And it's
Mhm.
like seeing that for the first time, I was thinking, what the heck did I just watch? And it just made me want to watch another one because it just, I wanted to see how it will evolve from there. And I like seeing it. It's just funny because I think about it for me. And it's like, you don't think I will be enjoying movies like this because of the gore in it. But it's more than anything, the storyline that we have between all these movies that makes me want to keep watching them. And, you know, the story that we have here for John Kramer in his life and everything that happens to him too. But I think that one, just all the twists and turns that we got to it, it just, I was like, holy crap, at the end of the movie. I feel like no matter how many times I watch it, it still surprises me, even though I know what's going to happen next.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I find it hard to argue against one, but I love two. And the reason I love two was because I went into it. I walked into that theater thinking, they had the good twist ending the first time around. I have a feeling this is just going to fall into regular horror movie category. We know who's behind it. There's no swerve to it anymore. And lo and behold, how wrong I was, and in a very impressive way. I thought they upped the ante. I loved how two played out. I loved Amanda's inclusion into the franchise at this point in time too, and become such a notorious character throughout, and also played into Saw X as well. But yeah, I'm a big fan of two, and like I said, Darren Lynn Bousman behind it. I like his work. Not to say I don't like James Wan. I love James Wan as a director as well too. But Darren Lynn Bousman gets some of this horror quite well. He's gone on to make a few good other horror movies as well. So I mean, that's the one I would choose if I had to choose one in particular. So yeah. But yeah, anything else we want to talk about when it comes to the Saw franchise?
I would say, especially now than this one, when it comes out on digital, DVD, anything that you can get access to it, I would definitely watch it in that storyline order to see how it feels, because that's something I want to do. Like fit X where it's supposed to be in the storyline to see how it feels with the rest of them now moving forward too. And I'm curious. I'm like, I would like to see something else with Spiral too, because I know that Spiral ended in like such a cliffhanger that it's like you leaving me in a cliffhanger in a book and don't release the rest of the series. Like you can't do that to me. So I definitely want to I want to see something else from that side of Saw as well. So I'm hoping they decide to do something else in there too with not Toby, because it's the first time that I didn't mind Toby not being in the movie, because I feel like the movie was still interesting without him, because they still involved him in that way. So I think I would like to see how that goes moving forward, because like I said, it was like an open end. So it was like you never know what really happened after everything there, after the screen went black. So that's something that I would like to see as well. And again, if they decide to do another one after X, where would they fit in the storyline too? Because that's another thing that I'm curious about. Now that they just put this one in like right smack in the middle too. So I don't know.
Well, I would imagine there's got to be interest in doing another one because, again, Saw X has really done decently at the box office. In fact, its total after 10 days of earnings landed it at more than Spiral's entire earnings completely. So within 10 X days, the Saw X managed to land more money at the box office than Spiral did in its entire run. So I'd imagine there's life still in these movies. People are still interested in them. I think Spiral's undoing was probably calling it Spiral and not having it Saw with the subtitle Spiral or something along those lines kind of thing. Might have been the only thing that hurt it. I think people should still go back and check Spiral out and watch these movies in the sequence that you mentioned as well too, once digital becomes available. But yeah, it's doing really well for itself. I can only imagine that Saw 11 and Spiral 2 and all these wonderful things are just around the corner for us as fans. It's only a wonderful time for horror. And of course, this one is the first critically acclaimed movie in the entire franchise. So it took 10 movies for us to finally get one that the critics were actually on board with. And when I say on board with, we're looking at a Rotten Tomato score of 80%. And that was from a total of 137 reviews, giving it a clear thumbs up for most of the critics who, praised the acting, said that this was the best in the franchise, according to them. So it's not just us as fans saying this is a good one. The critics out there are saying this is the one they actually enjoyed. So awesome to the team behind it. Awesome that there's life still in it, and awesome for horror because it's made a huge comeback all of a sudden. We have so much to talk about and a lot of great upcoming episodes of Killer Cuts on the way as well too. But I think that's probably it for the Saw franchise, unless you got more to add there, Astrid.
No, it was like it was great. It was better than I thought it was gonna be. So I'm glad I watched it like right opening weekend because I had the chance to.
Yeah, me too. Very glad. Can't wait till the next one. It's hopefully going to be sooner rather than later as well too. But in the meantime and in between time, you can't just find us on, good old Killer Cuts. We got other stuff going on. So Astrid, why don't you tell the wonderful people where they can find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find me. A lot of my stuff is on my YouTube channel, which is like my name, Astrid Pizarro. And then social media was Twitter and Blue Skies, Astrid Pizarro. And then Instagram and Threads, Astrid Pizarro 20. But yeah, other than that, everything's on the YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked it out, go back and watch it all.
Sounds good. There is where you can find me down below. That is where all my different socials are, including twitch.tv/video bro Bobby Munson, where you'll see me doing some gaming. I am the world's worst gamer, but I have fun doing it. You can also check me out on Prairie Pro Wrestling, one half of the commentary team with Papa Spokes, every single Saturday. If you want to just check us out on Thursday nights, we got Ring Respect Radio, and I'm here on Busting Out. Killer Cuts, I got Beats and Beatdowns, got the Pod Life, all sorts of things. You can always find all of that stuff at our local establishment. Of course, that's where you can find us, OLE Podcasts. Down at the bottom there, that ticker is going to take you everything. If it's on socials, OLE is over there because we've expanded in that way. We're the cool kids now. We're trying to keep up with all the kids these days. So check us out on all the socials. Like, follow, subscribe, all those wonderful things. And we appreciate the community we've built and the support that we have. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Killer Cuts.